We are on Daf Yomi Yoma Daf 54. So the pasuk says, "Vayetzei mibat Zion kol hadara," that the beauty of all of the beauty left Zion, my kol hadara, chadra, that which was hidden, the chedrei chadorim, like Rashi says, the aron. This is a pasuk that seems to imply that the aron was taken to Bavel. Atamata Omer Amar Lo Shani Omer Aron didn't come and Igdas. He disagrees. I say that the aron was buried in the Beis Hamikdash. Shenamar Vayarichu Abadim, that the
staves,
the poles that were used to carry the aron were seen up until now. Ara Yom Hazeh. Amalei Rav Hula, my mashma d'chsiv vayuz sham Ara Yom Hazeh. V'kol heicha d'chsiv Ara Yom Hazeh lo ilamu. Who told you that in Tanakh, when it says Ara Yom Hazeh, it means forever? I'll show you that Ara Yom Hazeh doesn't mean that. Vaksiv. In Shoftim, we learn V'sayevusi Yoshev Yerushalayim Lo harishu bnei Binyamin. The Bnei Binyamin, whose Nachlo was Yerushalayim, they were not able to defeat the Yevusi. And therefore, Vayeshev Yevusi as Bnei Binyamin Yerushalayim Ara Yom Hazeh. Now, it's not true that the Yevusi are there forever. The Yevusi did get chased out of Yerushalayim too. Vatani, Rabbi Yehuda. Chamishim u'shtayim shana la'over ish b'Yehuda. After Gedaliah, after Gedaliah was killed, so initially Nebuchadnezzar, they left Jews in Yerushalayim, but after the rebellion against Gedaliah, they emptied Yerushalayim of everybody. And Chamishim u'shtayim shana la'over ish b'Yehuda, 52 years, no person wandered around in Judea. Shneimar al he'aharim esa bechi v'nei. There was only animals, no people walking around. Behema, begematria chamish mushtayim, implying that the Yevusi were also not there. So Ara Yom Hazeh cannot mean forever. The Tanya Rabbi Yossi Omer Sheva Shanim Niskayim Agofis from Melech Beit Yisrael. For 7 years there was like when Sodom was destroyed with Gofris from Melech, the same thing done Eretz Yisrael. Rav Yechon, my time Rabbi Yossi. Asya bris. You learned a hekesh from two words bris. Ksivacha v'higbir bris l'rabim shavua echad. Shavua refers to 7 years. Uksivasum va'amru ala sharaz v'es bris Hashem elokei avosam, because they weren't following the covenant of Hashem. So Ara Yom Hazeh doesn't mean forever. So the Gemara answers, Hachaksiv Sham, by the Aron, it says Vayihi Sham, and by the Yevusi Hasam Lo Ksiv Sham. And if it says Sham, it means Ara Yom Hazeh. What is Sham also mean forever? Meisvei. I'll show you it doesn't. Umehem in Bnei Shimon halchul har seir. Anashim chamesh meos. 500 people of Shimon went to har seir. Uplatio na'ario Rafaya Uzia Bnei Yishi berosham. Vayakuat sherita pleita la'amalek. Vayeshu sham Ara Yom Hazeh. They wiped out the remainder of Amalek, and they lived there until now. They didn't live there until now. Kvar Allah Sancheriv Melech Asher Ubil Bokol Arotzos. Sancheriv took everyone away, including the Bnei Shimon, even though it says Sham, that they were there forever. Because Vayeshu Sham is written there as well. Shenamar Vasir Gvulot Amim Va'atudehem shoshata. That's what shows that Sanchev took everybody away. So tiyufta, it's a kasha on this concept of the Adayom Hazeh, the way Ula said. Bat Sham. So there's no raya from that pasuk by Yusham Adayom Hazeh regarding the Yoram. Amrav Nachman. Tana. The Chachamim Oimrim Aron Belishkas Dira Eitzim Hayagonos. The Chachamim also feel that the Aron was buried in the Beis Hamikdash, and they know exactly where it was buried, in the Lishka, where they would store all the wood to use for the Mizbeach. Amrav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Afanan Namitania. Ma'aseh b'kohen echad, shahaya misasek. There was a Kohen who was just walking around Beis Hamikdash. The Ra Ritzpa Meshuna Mechavroisa. He saw that a floor was different than the floor next to it, implying that this might be the location where they had buried the Aron. He told his friend, we
learned this before. I think this was
we learned this before. As they were trying to look in that area, the Kohen died. The Yadubi Yichud Shesham Aron Ganus. So they knew for sure that that's where the Aron was. Mayava Aviv. What was the Kohen doing? Amrav Chelo Misasek B'Karduma Haya. He was digging with like a pickaxe. It was different. Shnei Kohanim Baalei Mumin Hayu Matliyim Ba'etzim. Since a Baal Mum cannot do the avoda, they would assign a Kohen who was a Baal Mum to various other jobs. For example, they dewormed the wood. Wood had worms. It's not coveted to put wormy wood on the Mizbech, so they would deworm it. And as they were working with the wood with their pickaxe, the metal flew off and it fell in that area where the Aron might be. The Yatsa Eish V'Chalto. A fire came out and burned up the Kohen, so he couldn't tell anybody where it was. Rabbi Yehuda Rami, Ksiv Vayero Rosh Abad. One pasuk says that they could see the impression of the staves, the poles of the Aron, sticking out of the paroshas. Uksiv V'Lo. Another pasuk says they couldn't be seen. How do you resolve this? Nirin ve'ein nirin. Well, the Gemara will tell us what that means. They were seen and they were not seen. Yachol lo yuzazin min kolman, that they weren't sticking out. Talmud lomar vayarichu abodim. It did stick into at least the amatraxin, that area that divides between the Kodesh Kodashim and the Heichal. Yachol yumakar b'parechos v'yoytz. Well, maybe they would tear the curtain and that you could see the sticks. Talmud lomar, no. Lo yara'u achutza. They were not seen. Haketzad. Doichkinu boltin v'yoytz brachos. You could see an impression of the sticks sticking out into the curtain. Veneering kishnei dade isha, like the imprint that the breasts of a woman makes on her blouse, where it sticks out. So the same thing. And there's a remez to this in Shir HaShirim, Sror Hamor Dodili Ben Shaddai Yalim, as if the pasuk seems to say that the Aron lies like between the breasts. That's where the Shechina is. Amrav Ketina b'Shasha Yisrael Oil LaRegel Megal Lehem Esaparoises. During pilgrimage season, when everybody came up Aliyah LaRegel, they would open up the curtain to show Umar Lehem Esakruvim Shayumurim Zebazeh. The kruvim, which were the boy and a girl, like an infant, that sat on top of the kaporas, which was the covering of the aron, they were hugging each other. The Oirin Lahem, the Kohanim would tell to the Klal Yisrael, you see that the love that Hashem has for Klal Yisrael is like the love between a Zachar and a Keva. So the Gemara challenges this. Mosif Rav Chizda, nobody's allowed to look inside the Kodesh Kodesh. How could you say that they opened up the curtain to allow people to look in? That when the Leviim were loading up the Kalim into the for them to carry it in the midbar, they were not allowed to look at the items inside. So you're going to tell me that they let Klal Yisrael look inside the Kodesh Kadoshi? Like a bride. When she hasn't lived with her husband yet, she's still in her father's house. Snua mi by. She hides from her husband, and the husband doesn't see her. Even Shabbos lebeis chamiyah, when she moves in with the husband and there's nesuin, ain't it snua mi by. So here's in the midbar, where the Mishkan's moving around, it's like a makom kavua. So that's when they couldn't see it's like the Kala in her father's house. But when the Beis HaMikdash was established in Yerushalayim, makom kavua, so and then it's like a wife in her husband's house. Everyone could look at her, and they could look in at that time. Mosif Rav Chana bar Rav Tina, that there was the Kohen who died, so he shouldn't see the Aron because we didn't want him to see the Aron. And this happened in the time when the Beis HaMikdash was built in Yerushalayim. So this rule about not looking at the holy Kalim still existed. Yeah, but once they went into Golus to Bavel after the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, it's like they're back to their original tznius as if she's in her father's house. Where there would be a din where you would not be allowed to see the king. So the Gemara wants to know what the Mayaskia, what are we talking? He name a big Rishon. How could they show Klal Yisrael in the Migdash Rishon with this paroiches? Either they opened it up or they would see the staves.
There was no
Miyavi paroiches. There was no paroiches in Bayis Rishon. There was a wall. El of the Migdash Sheni. Okay, remember we learned Bayis Sheni there were two curtains, one amma separated from each other. So there's a curtain. But Freik the Gemara Miyavi Kruvin. There was no Aron in Bayis Sheni, so therefore there was no Kapoiris. And therefore there's no Kruvin. And for the Gemara, Lo Elu B'Migdash Rishon. Umay parochas the bavi, the various curtains that enclosed all the gates to walk into the Beis HaMikdash, those curtains. Dam Rav Zer Marav, Shloshasar parochas hayu b'mid. There were 13 curtains in the Beis HaMikdash. Shiva keneged Shiva sha'arim, 7, the various gates that to walk into the Beis HaMikdash. Shtayim achas lepischo shalecho, v'achas lepischo shalula. They were walking into the ulam had a curtain, and walking into the Heichal had a curtain. Shtayim badvir. There were 2 in the Kodesh Kadoshim. Ushtayim keneged baliyah, and 2 on the upstairs. There was like a second story of the Kodesh Kadoshim, but also had curtains. So the Gemara in this answer says it could have happened in Bayis Rishon. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, no, lo b'mikdash sheni, where there was a curtain dividing between the Heichal and the Kodesh Kadosh. You have a question, where were the Kruvim? There's no Kruvim in Bayis Sheni. Kruvim the Tzurasa Havakaimi. They painted pictures of the Kruvim on the walls in the Beis HaMikdash.
Do we know what happened to the Kruvim? We don't know what happened to the Kruvim, right?
It's the same thing it's part of the Yoros.
It's also Ganuz. It's
But
also
that's the debate. Was it Ganuz or did it go to Bavel? So we hold that it was Ganuz. So at the Aron with the Kapoiris and the Kruvim on top of it were Ganuz. Dichsiv, that's called Kiros Abayis, Mesav Kala. This is a pasuk in Daniel. I'm sorry, a pasuk in Malachim, which describes the artwork in the Beis HaMikdash. Kruvim v'simros uv'turei tzitzim v'tzipazav v'yushalam mechuke. Uksiv kemar ish uloyos. That besides the Kiurim, besides the Kruvim, there was this kemar ish, like a person and lions. My kemar ish v'loyos, Amar Rav Bar Shila, ki ish ha'me'ura b'leviyah shelo. It's like a man who's hugging his wife.
Let me ask you, so we know for sure that there was no Aaron in the second Beis Mikdash?
No, absolutely not. The Gemara has mentioned that a few times.
But that's a given, right?
That's a given. Either way, either it was in Bavel, and they destroyed it, or who knows what they did with it there, or it's Ganuz.
And so how come when the people went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, all the Kohanim, if there wasn't the Aaron, or there wasn't, how did, in other words, where did the Kedusha come down? In other words, the Kedusha come down there. We say when the guy was looking for it, he got killed. Okay, because he's looking for the Aaron. But when they came to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was no Aaron over there. So how?
Right. So the Gemara said, where did they put the normally the Ketores had to go Bein HaKruvim. So yesterday we learned that there was an Even Shasiya. There was a rock in the Kodesh.
There was a rock underneath it. I understand that they put it on top of it.
And they put it on the rock because that's where the Aron was. That's where the Aron was normally kept, on the Even Shasiya.
Yeah. Okay, so that brought the Kedusha there.
That brought the Kedusha there. We're going to see in a minute why.
So you would have to say that it's not in Babel. It has to be in Yerushalayim, because otherwise, in other words, I know the Kedusha is anyway in Yerushalayim, but the Kedusha, how this happened when people went in. So
no, because once they built the Beis HaMikdash, Ezra was Magdish the Azara. There was a sanctification process that they were Magdish. This is the Azara, this is the Makam HaHeichal, this is the Makam of the Kodesh Kadoshim. So they could imbue the Makom with Kedusha, even though the Aron wasn't there.
Okay.
Even though the Aron wasn't there. But it was physically in Yerushalayim, buried somewhere, but it certainly was not in the Kodesh Kadosh. It was in this Lishkas Dira Eitzim, where they kept the wood. But the Shechina, for example, they say now the Shechina is also in the Koisel Marov, right? The Shechina can invest itself in the Beis HaMikdash even without the Aron.
Basically by Ezra it was Kitsha l'Shaita, Kitsha l'Avo.
Kitsha.
No, exactly. It's Kitsha l'Shaita, Kitsha l'Avo, which wasn't the first time.
Remember, we once had a shiur by Rav Goldvich, the Shar Tefillah, you're talking about 30 years ago, that talked about could we give the Korban Pesach Bizman Hazeh. So according to Rav Tzvi Hirsch Kalisher, you could, because it is Kedusha l'Shaita Ulo Asid Lavo.
Okay.
And therefore there's a Makam on Mizbeach that you could do the Korban Pesach there, if you knew where it was.
It's sanctified for that time and for the elder.
And forever. And forever.
Okay.
And forever. Amreish Lakish. B'shosha nichnasu nachrim lahechol. In Bayis Rishon, when the Babylonians went into the Kodesh Kadoshim, Ro Kruvim Amurim Zetza, they saw the Kruvim hugging each other. Hoitzin lashuk banu. So they took it out to embarrass Klal Yisrael to the market. Yisrael alalu. These Jews, sheberchasan bracha v'kolosan klal, they say something, a bracha, and the bracha happens, and they say klal and the klal happens. Yasku b'dvarim alalu. They have yiras shamayim. They're making idols, like these two things that are hugging. Miyadi zula. So they destroyed it. Shenemar kol mechabdei yizilua ki ra'u ervasa. Those that honor it cheapened it because they saw its nakedness. So they ask a shaila, the Rishonim, we know we had another Gemara that says that the Kruvim were only hugging each other bisman she Yisrael oisin ritzon shel makom. When the Klal Yisrael was not oisin ritzon shel makom, the Kruvim faced away from each other. So the Rishonim all ask, how could it be during Churban Bayis Rishon that when the Babylonians went in, they found the Kruvim hugging each other? Isn't this a time when Yisrael is being punished, and that's why the Churban is happening? They should have been separated. So a special nace happened in order to humiliate Klal Yisrael even more. It shouldn't have been. But Hashem wanted them to be humiliated through this episode. So some say that's why it was. Others say it related to the Kruvim that were painted, like we said, on the walls or the curtains, where they were always hugging. Some say that the whole Churban was a kapara for Klal Yisrael, right? He took it out on the Eitzim and on the Avonim. Rather than destroy the people, he destroyed the building. And therefore they were nimchal. Therefore, there was a kapara. They were nimchal of their avoidments. And that's why the Kruvim were hugging. Those are the various pshatim that I saw. Then it says, we talk about the Even HaShasiyah today, the stone that normally the Aron was on. And they would place the pan with the coals for the Torahs on that stone. U'Shasiyah Isanikris. Why is it called Even Shasiyah? Tana, Shemimena Hu Shasasa Oilam. The world sprung from that stone. Means when HaKadosh Baruch Hu built the world, this is like the foundation stone. Tanan Kamandomer Mitzio Nivra Oilam. And there's a Mishnah that is also like the opinion that the world was created from Tzion, the Tanya. From the Ezra Oilam Tziyaso Nivra. The world was created from its middle. Shneamar, Bitsekes offer Lamutzak or Govim Yudbaku. Rabbi Shomer Oilam and Atstadim Nivra. No, the world wasn't created from the middle, it was created from the sides. And then it moved in. Don't ask me what this means. It's very mystical. Shenemar ki lashelag yoymar hevi aretz v'geshem motor v'geshem mitres kuzo. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar Even Yora Kodesh Baruch Hu Bayam. Hashem threw a stone into the water. Mimenu nishus hasoilam, and from there, the dry land happened. Shenemar Alma Donei Atavu Omi Yora Even Pinasa. Who threw the cornerstone? The world got its start from Tzion. Shenamar Mizmor Lasaf El Elohim Hashem v'oimer mitzion michlal yofi. Mimenu muchlal yofi of Sheloim. From the Tzion, the beauty of the world was created. Tanya Rabbi Ezra Gon Loimer Ela told us Hashemayim v'artz bihi baram. B'yom asos Hashem Elokim eretz v'shamayim. Told us Shemayim. Those things that are in the heavens, b'shamayim, are created in them. Told us Sa'aretz Maretz Nivro. Any creatures or any things on the earth were created from the earth. The Chachamim Elu ve'elu mitzion Nivro. Everything in Shamayim and everything on land was created from Tzion. Shenemar Mizmor Lasaf El Elohim Hashem Yiber Vayikra Eretz Mimizrach Shemesh Ad Mevo. V'omer Mitzion Michlal Yofi Elohim Ofia. So everything from the Shemesh to the Oretz was created from Tzion. Mimenu Michlal Yofi of Shaloilo. Okay, we'll stop here, and tomorrow night we'll learn 9:15.
Shkoyach, have a good
So,
Shabbos.